Okay, this is the shot that we're going to do. I'll edit this afterwards online so you can get an idea of how I go about doing the editing, and that links in with the book. Behind me is the central subject that you've got here, and that's going to be this beech tree and the little green branch that's coming out with the green leaves. And that happens at this time of the year. The canopy is bare still, but to give the younger trees an opportunity to grow, that the green leaves lower down come out first, and they'll subsequently go later in the autumn, and they stay brown in the winter, which is can be quite interesting sometimes. But that's the central subject. And then round to the right of this image, you can see that there are 3 trees bowing round, and that sort of leads down towards the back, and also surrounds the tree on that side. And as you can see, we've also got some trees to give it some balance on this side as well. In relation to the background, we've got a slope going down, and then as we go up the other side of the slope, because it's a hill, that's blocking out the sky, but it is light, and it gives it that sort of I suppose the best way to put it is a more painterly look to it, rather than harsh glaring backgrounds from the sun. Now, in our minds, we need to work out where predominantly the light's coming. The sun's risen over that way, but actually, because the forest is surrounding us, most of the light is coming round just from the top left-hand side. So we make a mental note of that, and that's going to be needed for when we do the editing. And then on the ground here, in relation to managing the light, we've got the brown leaves that fell last autumn, but with this kind of light, they're starting to reflect now. So there's a polarizer on the filter, just to dampen that down and make the foreground leaves that darker than they would have been. They would have been distracting otherwise. And we'll go back and we'll edit in Lightroom. The rule that I have is that I'm looking for a subject, which you can see here. It's the green leaves and the beech tree. Then I'm looking for light on the subject, so they both go together. So you can see here on the side of the beech tree, you have got the light coming in from the left-hand side, illuminating it. And then the third element I'm looking for is essentially a second point of light, which you can see up here in the tree canopy. Because it was the hill in the background, it's not a bright light, that would be too distracting. I'm always looking for a sort of a painterly kind of light that's pleasing on the eye. So now you can see here you've got the tree, and I'm hoping that the viewer will look at the tree and the green leaves, and then subsequently their eye will be taken over to the higher area, to the top left hand side, the brighter area, and then their eye can wander backwards and forwards between the two. So they're essentially the 3 elements I'm looking for. We also have what I deem as secondary elements to the right hand side, which are these trees, the 3 trees. So the rules of odds, you've got 3 trees together, and then we've got some balance here, which is the trees on the left hand side of the image. That's it essentially. And so now I'll show you how we edit it. Before we move on to the editing, let me tell you that I'm off to Tennessee, USA, to go to the Smoky Mountains this week. I'll do a video at some point, either a Reels or a YouTube, just to show you some of the compositions that I've come across there and how I found them. So don't forget to like and then subscribe if you want to see that, and on with the editing. Okay, how to edit this photo in Lightroom. So basically, I end up choosing 6% to view, so it reduces the size to a thumbnail. This is really good to do an overall view of the highlights, the bright and the dark areas, and the contrast for where the eye is going to be drawn to. So I always recommend going into a thumbnail and keep it on a white background, which should be similar to how it would be presented on a wall, because a lot of my work will go on the wall in the end. So when we're editing it, we're doing that with that in mind. So you can see here that the image is much brighter and lighter than the final edit that I showed you just before. And the reason for that is the camera is just taking on the full dynamic range, so it just comes up as a brighter image, so it's a negative essentially. And what we need to do is put back all those tones and contrasts back into it that we saw in the woods, because the woods were dark and moody, so we're just going to put that darker moodiness back in. But if we didn't have the whole dynamic range that you see here, then it does cause us problems later on. So this is how I build an image up from essentially what is the negative. So I turn down the exposure here, so I'm going to go down as low as let's have a look, 1.8, so nearly 2 stops of darkness. And the way that we get this back, we knew that when we looked at it before, we had in these areas here, we had the light coming in diagonally. So we're just going to put that back in, and I'm going to do that with a radio gradient filter here that I've chosen. So I make it as big as possible, and we're just going to put it on from the edge. So this is feathered quite a bit, just feather it a bit more, and then just widen it up. And this is probably the direction that the light was coming from. It was bouncing around in the woods, and essentially the vast majority of it was coming in that way from the left hand side. So now what we do is we turn up the exposure gently, and you can see that light shining through onto the tree, and you can see that also in the background, those top highlights, the top left hand side here, they're starting to brighten up. And it's just a question of altering that with the contrast as well. So we can just exaggerate it here. We can bring the contrast up as well. We don't want to do it too much in this case. We got up to what, 2.5 stops higher again, and maybe a little bit more. Yeah, it's probably about like that. So that's a good base to start from. And if we just open it up to what it was, and then make a decision as to whether we like that or not. So that's a good starting point now to do the edit from the image. I personally think that there needs to be more light here. It's just, okay, on the tree, on the left hand side of the tree. So what I would do is I would select another mask, and that mask will be, let me have a look, let's do a subject, sorry, an object. So we select the objects, and the object is going to be the tree. Just make that brush bigger, and we'll just brush down on the tree and give that a few moments to figure out what the subject is it's looking at. And there you go. So that's selected the tree, but I actually don't want to select the whole tree. I'm going to use a brush, so I'm going to intersect that, and I'm going to intersect the mask with a brush. Okay, going to make the brush a bit smaller, and then if I start brushing down here, now you can see the brush, it's not going to affect here. If I brush over, onto this area of the trees, it doesn't affect it. It only affects where I'm brushing within the original object mask. And so now I can just turn the exposure up slightly. So just exaggerate that. You can see how high it goes. But we're just going to do this gently, and probably like that, maybe. That's it. And I've got this sort of, if you look here on the right hand side, I'll click, you can see the feather and the flow. So the flow is not 100%, and so every time I go over, I'm sort of doubling up on how much of an effect is on there. So that's basically it. If we turn that on and off, you can see we've got light on the sides of the beech tree. So another thing that we can do is we can use another mask, and that's going to be a radial mask. And the radial mask we're just going to put over the leaves. There we go. And I'm not entirely happy that it's come with the same colour that I remember at the time. I think it was slightly greener. So what we can do is we can select the colour pointer and select that within the radial mask. Should have just selected the colour within that. So let's just get rid of this. So if you see, we can shift the colour and it will change the colour of just the leaves. I think that we're just about 4 notches up there on that. Saturation, not too much, but probably 11. And then the luminance shift, do we want to up the luminance there a little bit? Maybe just 6. So if we turn that mask on and off, you can see very slight glow to the leaves there, and they look slightly greener. And that's probably what I remember at the time. So that's basically it from the edit. So we've gone from that to that. There's a significant difference there. So it's from that, which was the original shot, to that. And you can see that the light's much more dynamic coming in from the left hand side. And then we can move on to the secondary elements, just as we did with the tree. So for example, if I select the trees as objects, so there's one of the trees. Well, let's start with this one. Just make the brush a little bit smaller. Come down here. So that will select the tree within a few seconds. And then once again, I'm just going to select the brush on top of this. So it's an intersect mask with the brush. And then I'm just going to gently brush on the side here, just to line up that side of the tree. And then just increase the exposure slightly. See? And just a bit of contrast on that. Not too much, because these areas were dark anyway. So if I turn that on and off, you can see there's just a bit of light there. And we can go through and change all the trees slightly to however we want. Okay, that's it really. I mean, with the image, I did go in to Photoshop to do a couple of other bits and pieces in relation to dark and light tones, just to make that image a bit more refined. But you can do as much and as little on the image as you want. This just shows you how to get the basics of my method done in Lightroom, and that's it. I've got the book if anyone's interested. I'll put that on the link below. That goes into how you can walk into woodlands and work out a good composition and work out from all the chaos of the woodland quite quickly determine how to find an image that might be good for other people to look at and for you to turn into a print to put on the wall. So I hope that was helpful, and if it was, put a thumbs up please.